The flowers were still fresh. The bouquet fell from her trembling hands. White roses, carefully arranged just that morning, hit the church floor one by one. Gasps echoed through the room. Everyone turned their heads toward the heavy wooden doors. At the back of the church, waiting, hoping, but he didn't come. The pianist stopped playing. The pastor looked confused. Amelia stood at the altar, frozen. Her veil slipped off her shoulder, and her heart began to pound so hard she thought the whole church could hear it. A buzzing sound broke the silence. Her phone, hidden in her small purse. She slowly pulled it out, praying it was him saying, "I'm on my way." But instead, it was a message, just 5 words. "I'm sorry, I can't do this." No name, no explanation, nothing else. Her face turned pale. Her lips parted slightly, but no words came out. She stared at the screen, hoping the message would disappear or turn out to be a mistake. But it stayed. Her hands started to shake. Behind her, someone whispered her name. It was her father. Her mother was already sitting down, head in her hands, unable to look. The guests began to murmur, and Amelia, she stood alone at the altar in her white wedding dress, under the golden light of the chandelier, completely shattered. Daniel, the man she had loved for 4 years, the man who had proposed to her with tears in his eyes, had vanished without a trace. She didn't cry, not yet. She simply turned and walked out the side door, her heels clicking sharply against the stone floor. The sound echoed behind her like a farewell song. One followed. 6 hours later, Amelia sat in her apartment in silence. She hadn't changed. Her dress was wrinkled, her hair undone, makeup smudged from silent tears. The silence in the room was too loud. Even the lilies in the corner couldn't cover the scent of betrayal in the air. She stared at her phone, still clutched tightly in her hand, the message still glowing on the cracked screen. "I'm sorry, I can't do this." No calls, no follow-up. His phone was off. His apartment was empty. His work said he hadn't shown up in 2 days. It was like he had disappeared from the world. Amelia's mind raced. Was he scared? Hurt? Had someone forced him? Or had everything been a lie? The love, the promises, the plans, all fake. Her thoughts were broken by loud knocking. It was Claire, her best friend and maid of honor. "Amelia, open the door, please." But Amelia didn't move. She sat there, frozen, her hands gripping the edge of the sofa, as if letting go would make everything crash down. The next morning sunlight poured into the room, but it brought no warmth. Amelia hadn't slept. She hadn't even moved from the corner. When Claire returned, she came with coffee and a look that said she didn't care if Amelia wanted company or not. "I was ready to break the door down," Claire said, walking in. Amelia didn't smile, but she stood. Claire pulled her into a long, tight hug. "Why did he do this?" Amelia whispered into her friend's shoulder. Claire didn't have an answer. No one did. After a while, Claire helped her change. The white dress was folded and pushed into a corner. Amelia looked like a ghost of herself, pale, exhausted, and hollow. Then Claire handed her an envelope. "This came to your building this morning. The doorman gave it to me." Amelia opened it carefully. Inside was a photo. Daniel standing at what looked like an old train station, cold, foggy. He wasn't looking at the camera. On the back was a short message. "Some things are better left broken." "What does that mean?" Amelia asked, staring at it. "I don't know," Claire said. "But I think he's trying to tell you something." A visit to his sister. Amelia couldn't sit still anymore. She had to know the truth. Later that day, she went to see Eliza, Daniel's younger sister. They had once been close, but Eliza had grown distant in the last few months. She stopped replying to messages, made excuses not to meet. Now Amelia was beginning to wonder why. When Eliza opened the door, her face was tired. Her eyes looked like she had been crying for days. "Hi," Amelia said softly. "I was wondering when you'd come." Eliza replied. She let Amelia in and sat down quietly on the sofa. After a few minutes of silence, Eliza finally spoke. "I told him not to marry you." Amelia stared at her. "Why?" "Because I knew something was going to happen. Something he didn't tell you." "What do you mean?" Elisa took a shaky breath. "A few months ago, Daniel got a letter. After that, he changed. He stopped talking, stopped sleeping. He got scared. He burned the letter and told me to forget about it." "What was in it?" Amelia asked, voice shaking. "I don't know, but I think it was about his past." "What past?" "I knew him for 4 years. I knew everything." "No," Elisa said. "You knew Daniel as he wanted you to know him." She stood and walked to the bedroom, returning with a small wooden box. This was under his bed. I kept it. I was too scared to open it. Amelia opened it slowly. Inside was a passport, Daniel's photo, but a different last name. There was also a folded map, marked with a red X, and a small, old-fashioned key. Amelia looked up. "What is this?" Eliza whispered. "A life he never told you about." And suddenly, Amelia knew Daniel hadn't just left her. He had disappeared into a secret she was never meant to find. The key that didn't belong. Amelia stared at the passport in her hand. The photo was Daniel's. Same dark brown eyes, same small scar near his left eyebrow. But the name was different. David S. Bennett. Not Daniel Smith. Not the man she was supposed to marry. Her fingers ran across the leather cover. Her heart pounded like a drum inside her chest. Everything inside the wooden box felt like pieces of a puzzle she never knew existed. A fake name, a marked map, and a single, rusted key. What was he hiding? She whispered. Eliza sat quietly across from her. Her hands trembled as she clutched a cup of tea she hadn't touched. "I don't know much," Eliza said softly. But when that letter came, everything changed. He stopped laughing, stopped sleeping. One night, he called someone from a blocked number. I overheard him say, "She doesn't know. She can't ever know. I thought he was talking about you." Amelia's throat felt dry. "He told me he had no secrets." Eliza looked away. He lied. The red mark on the map. Amelia spread the map across the kitchen table. It was old, worn. At the folds, a red X was drawn over a place called Coldwell, a small town she had never heard of. "Coldwell?" she asked. Eliza nodded. "I had to look it up. It's way up north, near the border. Tiny place, no airport, just mountains and forests." "And this key?" Amelia asked, holding it up. "What does it open?" Eliza shook her head. "I was too scared to find out." Amelia took a deep breath. "I'm going." "What?" "I'm going to Coldwell. I need to know the truth. I need to know who he was, why he left me, why he lied." Eliza looked at her with wide eyes. "What if you don't like what you find?" Amelia's voice didn't shake this time. "I'd rather be hurt by the truth than live in a lie." The road to Coldwell. 3 days later, Amelia packed a small suitcase and took the first bus north, then a second, then a train. The journey was long, cold, and lonely. Each stop felt like she was getting farther from the life she used to have, and closer to a truth that might ruin everything. When she finally reached Coldwell, it was already evening. The sky was heavy with gray clouds. The town was quiet, like it had been asleep for years. Small wooden houses stood along one narrow road. A church bell rang in the distance, though there was no one around. It was the kind of place where everyone probably knew each other, and where strangers didn't go unnoticed. Amelia checked into the only motel in town, a place called the Timber Inn. The old woman at the front desk gave her a strange look when she signed in. "Coldwell's not a place people visit," the woman said. "I'm looking for someone," Amelia replied. The woman didn't ask who. She simply handed over the key and said, "Be careful." The bank that remembered him. The next morning, Amelia went straight to Redridge Bank. The name written under the key inside the box. It was a small red building with old windows and a faded sign. Inside, there were only 2 tellers and 1 customer. She stepped up to the counter. I have a key," she said. "I think it belongs to a safety deposit box here." The man behind the counter looked surprised but nodded. "May I see it?" She handed it over. He inspected it carefully, then walked to the back. After a few minutes he returned. "This key belongs to box number 27, but to open it, I'll need ID and the name on the account." Amelia hesitated. "David Bennett." The man's eyes changed. "You're related to Mr. Bennett." Amelia's heart skipped. "You knew him. He came here a few months ago." Looked troubled. Opened a box. Didn't say much. Left quickly. "Can I see what's inside? I need proof you're family." Amelia's eyes filled with tears. "I was supposed to marry him. He left me on our wedding day." The man looked at her for a long moment, then sighed. "I'll need a manager to approve this. Wait here, inside the box." 15 minutes later, Amelia sat in a small private room. The box was placed in front of her. Her hands trembled as she opened it. Inside were 3 things: a notebook, old leather-bound, with torn pages; a small photo album, full of black and white pictures of a boy and a woman, likely his mother; a sealed envelope with her name written on it. Her hands shook as she opened the envelope. Inside was a letter. Dear Amelia, if you're reading this, I'm already gone. Not dead, I hope. But far enough. There are things about me I never told you. Things I was ashamed of. I've lived 2 lives. One, as Daniel Smith, the man you loved. And one before that, as David Bennett, the boy who ran from something no child should ever see. I changed my name to hide. But the past always finds you. I didn't leave you because I stopped loving you. I left because someone found me. Someone dangerous. I couldn't bring that danger into your life. I couldn't risk you getting hurt. I was never afraid of marrying you. I was afraid of what would happen to you because of me. I'm sorry I didn't say goodbye in person. If I ever make it out of this, I'll come back. But if I don't, please, live your life. Forget me if you must. But know this. I loved you more than anything. Always. D. Amelia couldn't breathe. Tears ran down her face. The truth was heavier than she expected. And even now, after everything, her heart still beat for him. But deep inside, a question burned brighter than ever. Who was after him? And more importantly, would he ever come back? The man in the photograph. The letter shook in her hands. Amelia had read it 3 times, and each time the words hit harder. Daniel hadn't abandoned her out of fear of commitment. He had vanished to protect her. But protect her from what? Her eyes moved to the notebook resting at the bottom of the safety deposit box. She picked it up and slowly opened it. The pages were yellow and torn at the edges. Some were stained, others filled with small drawings or strange numbers. The first page said only one thing, written in Daniel's handwriting: "Don't trust anyone from Clearwater." What was Clearwater? A town, a group, a person. Her heart raced. She flipped through the pages, scanning each one for clues. There were journal entries, some detailed, others just quick thoughts. Saw the black van again. Same plates as 2 months ago. Spotted him outside my building. The man with the glasses. If anything happens to me, check Mom's old house. And then she stopped at a page with a small, grainy photo taped to it. It was a man, maybe in his late 50s, bald, heavy-set, dark coat. His eyes looked cold, like someone who had seen too much, or done too much. Next to the photo, Daniel had written, "If he finds me, it's over." Amelia stared at the face. Something about it made her skin crawl. Who was this man? The search begins back in her motel room. Amelia spread the photo, notebook, and map on the bed. She took a deep breath and started Googling. Caldwell had barely any online presence. Clearwater, on the other hand, turned up multiple results, but one stood out. Clearwater Correctional Center, closed. 1995. A high-security prison shut down after a fire and several corruption cases. Daniel had never mentioned prison. He had never even talked about his childhood in detail. All he said was that his parents had died when he was young, and that he moved around a lot. What if that was only half the truth? She searched again, this time using the name from the passport, David Bennett. Nothing came up at first, but after digging deeper, a small article popped up in an archived newspaper database. Missing child found after escape from group home. Date: October 12, 2002. Child name: David Bennett. Age 10. David Bennett. Bennett was found in a forest outside Clearwater after escaping from a group home for troubled boys. Police confirmed that the boy had bruises and marks on his arms. He told officers that a man kept hurting him. An investigation was opened, but no arrests were made. The group home shut down 2 years later after several complaints. Amelia felt her chest tighten. Daniel had never told her he had lived in a group home. Had he been abused? Was the man in the photo someone from that place? It all suddenly made a kind of awful sense. The fake name, the fear, the running. He wasn't just protecting her. He was hiding from a past that still had claws in the present. Mom's old house. One line in the notebook kept coming back to her. Check Mom's old house. She flipped to the back of the notebook and found a page torn from a phone book. There was an address circled in red ink. 29 Birch Lane, Weston. Weston was 2 towns away. Amelia packed her things, checked out of the motel, and rented a car from a nearby garage. As she drove through the winding forest roads, her thoughts kept repeating one question. What happened to Daniel in that house? The house that time forgot. The sky turned grey as she reached Weston. Birch Lane was a small street with only 5 or 6 houses. Number 29 was the last one, an old wooden house with peeling paint and overgrown grass. The windows were boarded up. A chain blocked the front door. But Amelia didn't come this far to stop now. She walked around the back. One of the boards on the window was loose. She pushed hard, and it gave way. She climbed inside. The air was thick with dust. It smelled like wet wood and old secrets. Inside, the house was nearly empty. An old couch, a broken lamp, a small photo frame turned upside down on the floor. She picked it up. It was Daniel as a child, standing next to a woman with kind eyes and a man who wasn't smiling. Her fingers trembled. She stepped into the kitchen. That's where she saw it, a metal box half hidden behind the broken sink cabinet. She pulled it out. It was locked. She remembered the old key from the wooden box in Coldwell, hands shaking. She inserted it into the lock. Click. Inside was a small stack of papers, letters, old photographs, and another photograph of the same man from Daniel's notebook, only younger. He was standing next to a sign that read, Clearwater Home for Boys. This man had worked at the group home. Was he the one Daniel was running from? Under the papers was a cassette tape, labeled in black ink, play only if something happens to me. The Truth recorded Amelia didn't have a cassette player. She drove into town and found an old electronics store. The owner looked surprised, but after a few minutes of digging, handed her a used portable player. She sat in her car, inserted the tape, pressed play. Daniel's voice came through, scratchy but clear. If you're listening to this, then I didn't make it back. That man, his name is Carl Hendricks. He ran the group home. He hurt a lot of kids, including me. We thought he disappeared after Clearwater closed, but he didn't. He started something else, something worse, a network hidden behind fake businesses. He found me again last year. I tried to disappear, but he kept coming closer. I never told Amelia, because I wanted her to be safe. I wanted her to have a life without shadows. But if this is playing now, it means he finally got close enough. I'm sorry, Amelia. I never meant to drag you into this. I love you. I always will. Tears rolled down her face. Daniel had been living in fear, running from a man no one had ever punished. And now, he was missing. Not by choice. Maybe taken. Maybe worse. But Amelia made a silent promise right there and then. She wouldn't stop until she found him, or the man who stole him away. His shadow was still. The tape stopped. Silence filled the car as Amelia stared ahead, her knuckles white, against the steering wheel. Daniel's voice still echoed in her ears, soft, frightened, but full of love. She now knew his fear had a name, Carl Hendricks. She whispered it out loud. It felt strange, heavy. This wasn't just about a lost love anymore. This was about a man who had caused pain for years, and was still out there, hiding behind fake names and false businesses, hurting others just like he had hurt Daniel. And if Carl had found Daniel again, he might not be hiding anymore. He might be planning something darker, digging in the dark back at the motel. Amelia took out her laptop and began searching. Carl Hendricks brought up almost nothing. No recent photos, no location, no job history. Then she remembered Daniel's words. Fake businesses. She changed her search. Carl Hendricks plus company owner, still nothing. Then she searched old newspaper archives with the name. After 30 minutes of frustration, she finally found a clue. A small article from 1998. Carl Hendricks investigated for misconduct at Clearwater Group Home. The investigation was dropped due to lack of evidence. The case was closed. But one line stood out. Hendricks claimed to be moving to a small town near the border and starting a security firm. She typed in security firms in the towns around Coldwell. One result caught her eye. North Pine Protection Services owner, C. Henley. The photo next to the listing showed a man, bald, heavyset, cold eyes. Her heart stopped. It was him. He had changed his name to C. Henley. Daniel was right. He hadn't disappeared. He had just changed his face to the world, and now Amelia knew where he was. North Pine. The next morning she drove 2 hours through winding roads to a small town called Eddings, where the North Pine security office was located. It was a grey, windowless building surrounded by wire fences and security cameras, the kind of place that looked more like a prison than an office. She parked a block away and watched from a small cafe. Over the next hour, several men went in and out, dressed in dark uniforms, serious expressions. Then he came out. Carl Hendricks, now calling himself C. Henley. He looked older than the photo in Daniel's notebook, but there was no doubt it was him. He stood outside, smoking, checking his watch, and talking to someone on a phone. Amelia grabbed her phone and snapped a picture from across the street. She wasn't sure what she was going to do next, but she knew she needed proof. Something she could take to the police. Something that would help her find Daniel. She followed him from a distance. When he got into his truck, he drove to a warehouse on the edge of town. She parked far behind and watched from the shadows. No signs. No people. Just a dark building surrounded by empty land. Carl unlocked the door and went inside. Amelia waited. A risk too big. After 20 minutes, she got out of the car. Her heart pounded in her chest. She knew this was risky, maybe even stupid, but she couldn't just sit in the car while the man who ruined Daniel's life was just a few feet away. She crept closer to the warehouse and found a side window. She peeked in. Inside were boxes, shelves, a desk, and 3 men, Carl and 2 others. They were talking, laughing. One of them had a clipboard. The conversation was too quiet to hear, but the mood was clear, calm, in control. Then she saw it. A small, locked room in the back. She could barely see it, but it had a metal door and no windows. Her heart skipped. Could Daniel be in there? Was he being held? She took a picture of the building, of the truck, of Carl, everything she could. Then she slipped away quietly and ran back to her car. The local police. She drove straight to the Eddings police station, a small place with only 3 officers on duty. She asked for the detective on call. His name was Officer Ray Collins, a man in his late 40s with a tired but kind face. She told him everything. Who she was, who Daniel was, the real name, the fake businesses, the abuse, the secret tape, the warehouse. At first he looked doubtful, but when she played the cassette and showed him the photos, his expression changed. "I've heard rumors about North Pine," he said. "Always seemed too quiet for what it claims to be, but we've never had a reason to dig. Now you do," Amelia said firmly. He nodded slowly. "If what you're saying is true, this could be bigger than we thought." He promised to send officers to the warehouse that night. Amelia waited in the station. Hours passed. Every minute felt like a lifetime. She stared at the photo of Daniel on her phone. The way he smiled when he looked at her. The little dimple in his left cheek. The eyes full of hope. She whispered to herself. Please be alive, please. At 11:17 p.m., Officer Collins returned. "We found something." Amelia stood up so fast she nearly fell. "What?" He hesitated. "There was a locked room, just like you said, but by the time we broke it open, it was empty. Recently cleaned, no sign of anyone." Her stomach dropped. "But," he added, "we found this." He handed her a piece of torn paper. It had one word written in black ink. "Redfern." "What's that?" she asked. He shrugged. "We don't know yet. Could be a name, could be a place." But Amelia recognized it. Redfern was the name of a train station. She remembered it from the photo Daniel had sent, the one that had arrived the day after the wedding. He was standing at that station. She pulled out her phone and looked at the photo again. Behind Daniel, the sign was blurry, but now she saw it clearly. Redfern Station. The stranger at Redfern. Amelia barely slept. The word Redfern kept spinning in her mind like a clock ticking down. She searched online. Redfern Station, Northern Railway line near the edge of the forest region, almost abandoned. That's where Daniel had been in the photo. He had left that clue on purpose. The next morning, Amelia packed her bag, grabbed a flashlight, and drove out before sunrise. The roads were quiet, and the fog hung low over the trees like ghosts watching in silence. After 2 hours, the road narrowed. Her GPS lost signal. Finally, a rusty old sign appeared. Redfern Station. 3 miles. She followed the winding road until she reached it. The station looked like it hadn't seen a train in years. Weeds grew through cracks in the platform. A single wooden bench stood, rotting under a shelter. The tracks were covered in fallen leaves and silence, but someone had been here recently. Amelia spotted cigarette butts, a half-empty water bottle, footprints in the mud. Her heart thudded. "Daniel," she whispered. There was no answer. A note under the bench. He walked slowly along the platform. The wind whispered through the trees behind her. Then she noticed something. A small piece of paper wedged under the wooden bench. She pulled it out. It was damp but readable, written in the same handwriting as the letter in the safe deposit box. "If you're reading this, you're getting close. I couldn't risk staying longer. He's watching. Go to the lantern. Ask for Joe. Tell him I still remember the lake." The lantern, Joe, the lake. She had no idea what it meant, but it was a lead. the first real one since the warehouse. She got back in the car and typed the lantern into her phone. One result came up. The Lantern Cafe, Redfern Hills, small roadside diner, 8 miles away. She started the engine and drove. The Lantern Cafe. The cafe looked like it belonged in an old movie. Red and white paint, a neon sign half flickering, and a bell that rang as she opened the door. Inside, it was quiet. A couple of truckers sat at the counter. A waitress wiped down a table. Amelia walked to the counter and sat down. A man in his 60s stood behind the coffee machine. Grey hair, worn hands, sharp eyes. "Coffee?" he asked. She nodded. Then, softly, she said, "I was told to ask for Joe." The man paused. Then he looked at her carefully. "And who told you that, Daniel?" she said. "He said to tell you he still remembers the lake." The man's eyes narrowed. "Follow me." The back room. Joe led her to a door in the back of the cafe. Inside was a small room with a couch, a table, and a kettle. He shut the door behind them and sat down. "How do you know, Daniel?" I am his fiancée," she said. "He left me on our wedding day, but I know now he did it to protect me." Joe nodded slowly. "Then he trusts you. Do you know where he is?" Amelia asked, leaning forward. "I know where he was," Joe said, "but I don't know if he's still there." Amelia's chest tightened. "Is he alive?" Joe looked her straight in the eye. "Last I saw him, yes, but he's running out of time." The lake cabin. Joe explained that Daniel had stayed with him 2 weeks earlier. He had arrived in the middle of the night, looking tired and scared. He said he was being followed. Joe had hidden him in an old fishing cabin by Foxwell Lake, a place no one visited in years. He said he'd stay a few days. Joe added, then disappear again. "But after a week, I lost contact. I thought he'd moved on." "Do you think Carl found him?" Amelia asked. Joe hesitated. "If Carl's involved, then yes, it's possible. Can you take me to the cabin?" Joe nodded. "It's not easy to find, but I'll take you." The cabin in the trees. That afternoon, they drove together in Joe's old pickup truck through the thick forest. The road turned to gravel, then to dirt. After an hour, they stopped near a narrow trail. "We walk from here," Joe said. They hiked for 15 minutes, through thick trees and brush. Finally, a small wooden cabin came into view, hidden behind trees near a quiet lake. The door was unlocked. Inside, everything was still. A bed, a chair, a fire pit, a backpack. Amelia rushed forward and opened the bag. Daniel's clothes, his notebook, his watch. "He had been here." "Joe," she whispered. "He left in a hurry." Joe walked to the desk. "Look at this." He held up a piece of paper half burned. Only a few words remained. "Coming tonight. If I'm not back by dawn, take this to her. Tell her the truth." "Back by dawn," Amelia said. "Where did he go?" Joe pointed toward the lake. "There's a path on the other side. It leads to an abandoned building. Used to be a hunting lodge. Locals say strange things happen there. Fires at night, trucks coming and going. No one talks." "Do you think that's where Carl took him?" Joe nodded. "It's where I'd look first. I found him, but he wasn't mine anymore." Amelia stood at the edge of the trees, looking out across the darkening lake. The sun had dipped below the horizon, painting the sky with soft orange and gray. Behind her, the small wooden cabin whispered memories of Daniel. Ahead of her, hidden deep in the forest, was the truth she had chased for weeks. If he was still alive, he was there. And if not, she pushed that thought away. Joe handed her a flashlight. "You sure about this?" She nodded. "I have to know." Through the forest path was narrow and rough. Branches scraped her arms, and the dirt was uneven. The only sounds were the crunch of her footsteps and the beating of her heart. Joe walked beside her, silent. He knew better than to speak. After half an hour, they saw it, the outline of a large building, covered in shadows, the old hunting lodge. It looked abandoned, but a faint light glowed from one of the upper windows. Someone was inside. They moved closer, staying low behind trees. Then, they heard it. Voices. 2 men, standing near the back door. "He shouldn't have come back. We should have ended it that night." Amelia's breath caught. "Daniel." They were talking about Daniel. Joe leaned close. "We need to get inside." Quietly, they circled around the back, where the old wall was partly broken. Joe pushed gently, creating a gap just big enough to slip through. Inside, the air smelled of mold and gasoline. Dust floated through the light, and then a faint cough from behind a door marked storage. The room. Amelia rushed forward and tried the door locked. Joe stepped back, raised his boot, and kicked hard near the handle. The door swung open. There, on the floor, tied to a chair, bruised and weak, was Daniel. His head lifted slowly, eyes wide with shock. "Amelia," he croaked. She ran to him. "Daniel, I'm here. I found you." Tears streamed down her face as she dropped to her knees and began untying the ropes. "You shouldn't have come," he whispered. "It's not safe." "I don't care," she said. "You're not alone anymore." The escape. Just as she pulled the last rope free, a loud voice shouted from outside the door. "Who's there?" Joe moved fast. He pulled a metal pipe from the wall and shoved the door shut. "Get him out," Joe yelled. Amelia pulled Daniel up, putting his arm over her shoulder. He winced in pain but moved. They went through the broken wall again, out into the trees. Behind them, voices shouted. Footsteps followed. Joe led the way. Fast, but careful. A gunshot rang out. The sound echoed through the forest like a warning bell. They kept running, the truck waiting. By the time they reached Joe's truck, Daniel was barely standing. Joe helped pull him inside and started the engine. They sped down the dirt road, bouncing hard over every bump. Amelia sat beside Daniel, holding his hand tightly. "It's okay," she whispered. "You're safe now." He looked at her through tired eyes. "I thought I'd never see you again." "You almost didn't," she whispered back. The truth at last. At the hospital later that night, the police arrived. Daniel gave his statement, telling them everything about Carl Hendricks, the abuse, the hidden network, the threats. Amelia gave her evidence to the tape, the photos, the notes. Within hours, a full investigation was launched. By morning, Carl Hendricks was arrested. The nightmare that began in a group home so many years ago was finally ending. The goodbye stayed in the hospital for 3 days. Amelia never left his side, but on the 4th morning, he looked at her with pain in his eyes, not just from his injuries. "Amelia," he said gently, "I need to tell you something." She froze. "I can't go back. Not to the life we had. I've seen too much, become someone I didn't want to be. I'm not the man you loved at the altar." Tears filled her eyes. "But I still love you." He reached out and touched her hand. "And I love you more than anything. That's why I have to let you go." She shook her head. "We can fix this, together." Daniel gave a sad smile. "Some things don't get fixed. Some wounds stay open." He handed her a small box. Inside was the wedding ring he never gave her. "You deserved better than an empty church," he whispered. "I'm sorry I hurt you." "You didn't," she said. "You saved me. Even when you were the one drowning." 1 year later, Amelia stood on the edge of the lake at sunset, the same lake near the cabin. In her hand was the wedding ring Daniel gave her that day. He had disappeared again, this time on his own terms. He left her a final letter, mailed a week after he left the hospital. "Don't search for me this time. I'm going where no one can find me. But I'll think of you every day. In another life, I would have given you everything. In this one, I gave you my truth." She smiled softly through tears. Then, she gently tossed the ring into the lake, not out of anger, but because she finally understood. He didn't leave her because he didn't love her. He left because love, real love, sometimes means walking away to protect the person you care for most. Final message: lesson: not all endings come with closure. Sometimes, the people we lose are the ones who save us, and sometimes, letting go is the most powerful form of love. The end.